everyone. Leslie here for our live stream Q&A together. I'm doing it on my phone so that I can also look to see and read people's questions to see how's it going. So we are a little bit over a week into the giveaway. Welcome. And this is a time to kind of get your questions answered. I'd love to answer if you're having any difficulty or you just brought up a question like, hey, what about this? And I'll answer a couple questions that I've already seen. First off, I wanted to say thanks so much for your patience with some of the technical issues, especially with the Point software. This is a new software that we're testing out to see, if it makes it more fun for people. And I know that we've definitely had some links that weren't working. We're trying as best as possible. Donna, who's one of the excellent ladies on my team, has really been helping and working with those things. So that's been super helpful. And stay tuned to this live stream after a couple questions. I'm going to be giving you our special keyword that you can get extra bonus points for just watching this. So let's dive into some of the questions. I'm going to see the questions that people have posted, and it looks like maybe nobody had questions. So one of the things that often comes up, people have been asking some really good takeaways and questions, especially I wanted to talk about the staying in the body, because this is a really big one for people who are sensitive, energy sensitive, empathic. And I sort of share this story actually in the audio itself, that that this was my experience. When I was in Chinese medicine school, I was going to see someone in the clinic, and I sort of like unknowingly sort of jumped out of my body, and she really called me on it. And the question that comes up with people often is, well, what's so wrong with being out of your body anyways? I kind of actually like that feeling. I feel more floaty. I feel like this world is difficult and there's lots of suffering. So how do I actually deal with that? And the short answer is one, we want to have compassion with ourselves. That yes, it's true that it feels sometimes hard to be in physical reality. And whenever we have a problem, we want to go back to like, what is the ancient wisdom about that? Clearly, I'm probably not the first human who has had this issue. So what are the wise ones who have come before me said about it? And what we know from subtle body work is that the physical body, the juice that the physical body uses to run, comes through the energetic and the subtle body. So when we are slightly disassociated in that subtle body way, we might feel like it's more safe because we can't feel as much, but in essence, it really makes our physical body struggle. So this is one of the reasons why it's important. Interestingly, people who tend to be mostly not in their bodies also tend to, I've seen clinically, tend to have more things like anemia and blood level issues because their body has a tendency to not be sort of linked together as well, which creates more difficulty and nutrients for the physical body. It's not like a one-to-one correlation. I'm not saying disassociation causes anemia, but I've definitely seen it as a pattern in people in terms of being in the body. I was at a group once that was sort of had a bunch of energy workers at it. And there was this one guy who was sort of like very pale complexion, looked a little sickly. And the woman who was facilitating the group, she said, hey, I don't remember what his name was. Hey, Glenn, how about if you, bring yourself a little bit down into your body? And I swear to you, no joke, within like half a second, maybe 3 seconds, his color of his face changed. It was more pink. He had like more facial color. So I really have seen the difference physically with being in your body. So then the second question that comes up from that is, well, if I'm supposed to be in my body, and if I'm supposed to do all of these things for connection, how do I really deal with the difficulties that happen in life? So this starts to get us down to this deeper level of what our really working spiritual hypothesis is in the world. Because one of the things that many spiritual traditions understand, depending on your viewpoint, is that, suffering is a part of life, especially the sort of Eastern, school of thought, is that we have to recognize that no matter what, whether you are, spiritually enlightened or an average Joe, that nobody gets out of here without difficulty. So one of the important lessons that I'm often coaching people on is a stepping stone that we have to start to separate out the difference between what is difficulty in life and what is suffering. I'm working on a whole YouTube video on this, but I want you to add this in because the questions that will come up, and we had some of these on our live class the other day, is people will say, well, what about this issue with my friends? Or what about this issue with my family? I really feel stuck. And you'll notice that when you bring up an issue, it's like this big jumble of a lot of different feelings and emotions and sensations in my body and reasons why it should be some way or should be another way. And this is always a recipe for disaster. So what we learn to do is a two-step process. One is that we start to actually use our mind a little bit. And we can start to say, okay, of all this jumble, what is the objective difficult part? So if you're taking notes on this one, I want you to make 2 columns on a piece of paper. One column over here is the objective difficulty. It's actually very difficult that right now I'm low on toilet paper, I'm stuck at home, and I'm homeschooling my kids. Whatever the reality is for you, the things that go on this list should be objective. And then from this big jumble, you pull out those parts that are the objective parts. Yes, an independent council of observers would say A, B, and C are difficult things. And then what you start to put over on this other category in the suffering side is that the suffering things are the meaning that I put onto those things. The fear and the worries, stories that start to creep in that aren't necessarily an objective difficulty. It's a story that I'm making about the objective difficulty. The deeper understanding of how to get really free on the inside is to first, step one with your mind, separate out into 2 categories. What part of this is just the difficulty of the situation? Yep, it's pretty difficult that I've got 2 kids that I'm homeschooling. Yep, it's pretty difficult that it takes 3 hours to go to the grocery store and it's not fun like it usually is. And over here is more of the fear stories. I'm worried about that we're going to end up losing everything. I'm worried about that my parents are going to catch this virus and be in the ICU and I won't be able to get to them and then they're going to die and then I will be a terrible daughter. Whatever the fear things are that are coming up that are not objective, those go on this list. Because ultimately there's more steps, but we have to start with this knowing. And then what we do, using some of these skills that you've been learning of dropping into the body, we start to apply subtle body appropriate skills to trace these things down to their source. Because another body wisdom truth is that it's never about what it's about. Even though on the surface, it's a worry that I'm gonna worried about end up, living under a bridge and losing everything. But underneath, we trace it down to what I would call the basement, which are the main causes of things. So even just doing this with your mind will cut down on your suffering tremendously. And what you start to realize is that it is possible to go through the difficulty of life without the mind stuff and the fear and the stories that really causes the suffering. There's an adage sometimes where we say that, difficulties in life are unavoidable, but the suffering aspect is optional. So this is what we're really working on in subtle body work. Another thing that I want to announce to you, because you are here watching this, is that we have, for those of you who are really getting the sparkly vibe of like, wow, I'm really feeling this in my body, or maybe this is surprising me, or maybe I'm feeling that this is actually really challenging for me doing these audios. Sometimes as we start on this path, we really need one-on-one support. And we do have a coaching program, a program that we call Subtle Body Skills. And we have all levels. If you're really like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for, I want to know this in a deep way, I ultimately want to help other people, we have a Body Wisdom Academy training that's like, many contact and hours a week with me one-on-one and 12 weeks of support and in-person training, but that's not really for everyone. What is often likely for people who want to get one-on-one support is we have a Body Wisdom Academy coaching program. And what that looks like is you work one-on-one over 6 weeks with a Body Wisdom Academy coach who I've trained personally, and also with me. There's a couple sessions in a small group with me and one-on-one sessions, just you and a coach. And we've found that this approach to working one-on-one is the way to take it to the next level. So if you're feeling curious about that, or if you're feeling like, I get the truth of this subtle body connection, audio skills, but I'm having trouble applying it, you might really find great benefit in having someone walk through that process with you, as well as getting some training and materials to really start to understand it at a deeper level. And because I love giving stuff away, for everyone involved in this empath quarantine giveaway, we're going to have a special discount on our coaching program. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll send out some emails and post it in the group because that will also be a thing. And we're also contemplating giving people an extra discount in terms of for depending on if you've shared a lot or if you've accumulated a lot of points over the giveaway, that will actually translate to even more of a discount or a bonus on the program. So we haven't quite figured out the details, but there'll be some kind of like bonus or things for that, maybe some extra special training with me or an extra group session. So keep your eyes peeled on that. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions, but I want to give you the special keyword, and Donna is going to take that and put it into the points system. So like normal on our share page, you will be able to get some extra points for watching this live stream, especially if you showed up live. I think what we'll do, Donna, is let's do, if people are actually live here watching, so do it right away, set up the button, and let's make the keyword Dove, D-O-V-E. So right after this, for about like 5-10 minutes after I end this live, that will be up there, and people can get, let's say, 100 points for that. And then tomorrow we'll still let people watch the video of this live stream, but you will have to use the word cardinal, and it will only be worth 50 points. So if you're watching this live, use the Dove and get 100 points. And if it is watching it after as a video and catching up, that's still good. You still get 50 points, and the code word will be cardinal. So all of these technology things. If there's any other questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I see we have a couple of people watching. So do you have any questions? Post those in the comment, and then I have 1 or 2 more questions that I'm going to answer here. There was a good one a couple days ago that I was looking for. And then we have about 10-15 more minutes. Good, good, good. People talking about triggers. One of the things that I hear people say, so here was a good question. When we were talking about the inner and outer lesson, someone was asking and saying, this sort of my inner world creates my outer world. What does that really freaking mean? So this was a wonderful question, and I've been really appreciating these. And the question is, should I really be trying to modify my inner world in order to affect my outer world? So if I'm thinking, man, this outer world situation that I'm in is pretty crappy, do I just try to change that and think more positively? So what I want to clear up as a general question, because this is often really confusing for people, is how is this different? This idea, Leslie, that my inner world creates my outer world. How is this different than just like thinking positive thoughts? Because we hear that a lot in sort of mainstream new aginess, like your thoughts create your reality, which is kind of saying like my inner world creates my outer world, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. I remember talking once with a friend who was our real estate agent back in the past, and he was clearly struggling with some stuff. And I heard him say the word something like, I think you just gotta decide to be happy, and that's just how it works. And I thought, ooh, brother, that's a recipe for disaster. So let me explain, because maybe you've thought those things too. It is true that our thoughts have an influence on our reality, but it also falls short and is oversimplified. So what I would say instead, when we come back to this, my inner world creates my outer world, is that instead of just, it's understanding the direction. Please ask questions and post in the comment if I'm not being clear enough or you need a clarifying question. But it's like saying, the other thing that would be good to bring in this moment is the idea that everything needs to be seen. So one of the big keys that I want you to take in around this idea of positive thinking is, yes, positive thinking is better than negative thinking. We don't want to be beating ourselves up, and we want to train ourselves to have more positive thinking, but we don't want to just stop there, because thinking in its nature is at the level of the mind. The mind is like the tip of the iceberg. And what's really going on is our mind-body connection, is our subtle body, is what's happening at the deeper side underneath the iceberg. And that's why we are applying all of these things to really work and chip off the iceberg from the top. From the bottom up. So instead of suppressing a negative thought, we allow the negative thought to be there. We turn on our observer mind, our curious flashlight, to actually see what that scary thing is, and we actually bring it to the surface without fear. Another good analogy, if you were a Harry Potter fan, is the character saying Voldemort's name, the bad guy's name. And there was this culture in the magical community that they didn't even want to say his name because it was so much fear. I sometimes will hear people say also like, oh, I don't really want to say it out loud because then maybe I'm creating it. I want to tell you that that's actually a little bit of new agey bullshit. Just like if the thought is there, the vibration is there whether or not you say it out loud. So you don't have to worry that, oh my gosh, if I say that out loud, it's going to actually become true. If it's there underneath your iceberg, it will find a way to manifest whether you freaking say it or not. And so you need to be able to actually say it out loud so that you can bring it to the surface, so we can separate out what part is difficulty and what part is suffering. And so we can ultimately work with the inner Velcro to actually get free. So this is why we need to bring things to the surface, that it's not just about positive thinking, it's about more of a curious flashlight to really see what is actually there, to use the observation mind, the thinking mind, observer mind, to see what is the difficulty, what is the suffering, and then to apply those subtle body methods to it. Okie dokie, I haven't seen any more things in the comment or questions that come up. I am looking through the group every single day. So if you have a question, you can also tag me at Leslie Huddart in the group, and I will answer your questions or difficulties as they come up. I really want this to be a resource that you use that really serves you. That's why I'm doing it. And I look forward to staying in the loop and hearing how it's going. I'm always on a quest to make things better and easier to use. So if you have a suggestion, or certainly if there's a technical thing that's not working, we'll work really hard to get those finished as soon as possible. Make sure you get your points from watching this video, because it might actually help you down the road, as well as unlocking the normal gifts and things that you have. And anything else that I want to say, body? My body says no. Awesome. I am holding you in my heart, sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in to this time. We're going to do another live stream next week. So feel free to answer your questions, and I'll do some video answers to those then. And I'll answer them in the chat in the meantime, so you don't feel like you're hanging there. And can also be a good way to collect some more points. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you soon. Have a great night.